Hello everyone. Hope you guys had a good new year. As discussed in one of the last communication, I'm starting a new series on Cisco's ACI solution. So the approach that I'll be keeping in this series, it's going to be mostly practical, hands-on oriented. But before we really jump into the hands-on, we need to understand what is ACI and some of the core concepts. So I will not be spending a lot of time what is ACI and some of those constructs. There's a good documentation out there. But I will be covering the most important concepts or the underlying concept that we need to learn before we really gets our hand dirty with the practical aspects of the Cisco ACI. Cisco ACI is a pretty popular solution. The way the network engineers or system admins has been doing things is a little different the way we work with the Cisco ACI. And as you can see from the slide that I'm sharing, Cisco ACI, as it says, ACI stands for Application Centric Infrastructure. It's a combination of two things: Cisco's standalone Nexus 9000 product line plus an APIC. So APIC stands for your Application Policy Infrastructure Controller. These are the two things that really make up the Cisco's ACI as the solution. I would like to add one disclaimer here that some of the slides that are the slides that I'm showing you, I took it from Cisco Live's 365 website. So they have a lot of good information out there. I tweaked some of the information, make sure they are relevant, up to date. Even though on the photo that you says 2015, you can certainly ignore that. I made sure the slides had some new information. So we understood the ACI has two parts. There is a standalone Nexus 9000. It works in conjunction with the APIC, which is really the brain that makes up everything, because as the name kind of stands for, is the policy controller. Is the brain that you will go ahead and configure your policy. Once the policies are configured, they get pushed down to your standalone 9000. So let's go ahead and learn a few things about this 9000 platform before we really go deep dive into any more of the Cisco's ACI concept. So Cisco's 9000 series, in the 9000 series, there are multiple types of switches or platform you can think of. We just simply call them as a product family. So in the 9000 product family, you have a layer 2 as well as a layer 3. Pretty much there are a lot of things. The most important point to look here is the last bullet point, which says a mode of operation. So you can run the 9000 in two mode. One is the NXOS mode, or some people just simply refer as a standalone mode. The another mode, sometimes referred as a fabric mode or ACI mode, where you can have an APIC working hand to hand with the Nexus 9000. That gives you your ACI or the fabric mode. So sometime you may hear telling me fabric, sometime you may hear the ACI, both refers to the same thing. ACI is the overall solution. You use the APIC and 9000 to create a fabric. That's what you call your fabric or your ACI solution. In the 9000 product family, there are multiple platform or series of the 9K. On the top, you can see there's a 9500 series. It's a modular switch. I'm sure a lot of you are familiar out there. In the 9500, there are three specific modular switches very popular. There is 9504, there is 9508, and 9516. 9500 is the series. 4816 really stands number of slots which are available for you to use, where you can go ahead and install your line cards. In 4, obviously there are 4 slots. In 8, there are 8, and so on. The line card pretty much range from anywhere from 1 gig, 10 gig, 40 gig, and now there are 100 gig line cards available too. You get a huge port density. Similarly, on the 9300 series, they have a fixed form factor like 9396px, 93182tx, etc. There is a 9200 series. Industries, they know that was the first one, 36, and some more details. And again, as I said, some of this information is already out there. You can go ahead and spend some time, really see what switch, if you are planning to go down the ACI or your organization is planning to make use of the ACI. You can certainly go ahead and read more on the data sheet about all of these different products. In the ACI, you will hear a concept multiple times or referred into the documentation, or somebody who has used ACI, there is something called ACI Spine. So you have different models that can be used as Cisco's spine switches, where you have a fixed one 9396 PQ, or certainly you can use any of the 9500 series, which are your modular chassis, 9504, 8, or 9516. As well as there are some out there like 9732CEX, which is a newer one, 9736B PQ. It's again also a newer ACI spine switch. Then you would need something called the leaf switches or the host switches, some people sometimes refers to, but the generic term or the documentation may be referring them as the leaf switches. So there are multiple models out there for the leaf switches. As you can see in this slide, I'm showing two models, 9396 and 93128. These are the two leaf switches. If you look further on the slide, these are some of the newer line card. They were recently released. There is a Nexus 93180YCEX, and you see the sugar ball is the code name that Cisco refers, or sometime you may find in some of the documentation. It's based on the sugar ball. That means you are referring 93180YCEX or the EX based switches. And you can see in the EX based switches you have 48 ports, which can be used as 1 gig, 10 gig, or 25 gig SFP support. And on the right hand side you can see there are 6 ports, which does allow you to connect either a 40 gig port, 40 gig SFP, or you can connect a 100 gig SFPs too. And same thing stands for the 93108 TCEX, which is Lacrosse. Again, it's an internal code name. You can certainly use. So one thing I would like you to remember, that on these leaf switches, you generally have these 40 gig ports. Okay. And similarly on the 93, 96 and 128, you can see this particular one got multiple 40 gig ports. There are some multiple 40 gig ports, and you can see these are pretty much the TX, the regular RJ45. This is the SFP based. So now we understood that there are two types of switches in the Cisco ACI solution. One is called spine, another one is called leaf. So as the title says, where to connect the spines. So it clearly says spine can only be connected to the leaves. So anytime spines can only be connected to the leaf, let's say you have a laptop and you want to connect that to your ACI solution, you need to connect that laptop to one of your leaf switch, which will go ahead and connect back to your spine. So we never connect any end devices or any end host like laptop, servers, a router switch or anything, never to any of our spines. We always go ahead and connect them back to our leaf switches. And as you can see here, spine can only be connected to a leaf 40 gig gem module. So this is a gem module you can use. And again, these ports, which are your host port, where you can go ahead and connect your host, like I said, your laptop, router switch, or your APIX. Because in turn, your APIX, the application policy infrastructure controllers, are nothing but Cisco's UCS based servers that runs this special sauce or secret, which is nothing but your APIX controller. So you will connect the cable from this 40 gig port on your leaf to the 40 gig or whatever the connection you have, either 100 gig, 25 gig, back to your spine. And in summary, as you can see, the overall Cisco ACI solution got really 3 pieces. So you have ACI spine. On the right hand side, you got different model of ACI leaves, and everything is controlled or programmed by the ACI controller. You can think of this as the brain, where you will go ahead and configure all of your settings. Once those are done, you will go ahead and push those settings down to your spines and to your leaves. Hopefully that makes sense. Again, as I said, I will not be spending much time on any of the hardware platform or some of the things, but the key takeaway here that I really need you to remember, that in the ACI solution there are 3 things. One is ACI spine, there is an ACI controller, and there are ACI leaf. And you always connect the leaf to the spine. We don't connect any end host to the spine. ACI controller connects back to the ACI leaf, are really the brains. And once we move into the practical, I'll show you the topology that we'll be working with But anytime we are talking about the Cisco ACI solution, that means we are talking about some Nexus 9000 with an APIC controller. And you can have a mix and match where you can have 9508, 9504, or different kind of leaves. You always can mix and match. So let's say you picked up two spine being 9508, you can have a mix of ACI Leaf. Let's say you picked up few being 9332 PQ. There are a few picked up 93128TX or 9396PX. It all depends on you, your requirement.